Hi everybody. Sold out crowd as expected. Happy to see you all. A couple of years ago I was at a big sports conference doing a talk, and I was following a guy from one of these big internet companies, and he told me, I've had this public speaking training and there's this one advice I give you: don't ever thank people for showing up to your talk. They must be grateful that you're here talking to them. I was like, what a dick. I mean, so I'm very, very grateful you're here and listen to what I have to say. I hope it's useful. Interrupt me anytime, ask questions. This is the most transparent and honest thing I can possibly give you. I've gone through the mobile industry since the early days of 2004. We have always had a culture of sharing, of learning. Friends from the Finnish industry, from the likes of Supercell and Seriously, we've always been exchanging, and I'm happy to give you the full honest truth, the real good, bad, and ugly of what we've been doing here at BravoCo. We're a London-based team. Actually, we just opened a studio in South Korea and Seoul as well. But what defines us is that we have this interesting mix of industry veterans, some good younger talent that basically just graduated from university, and some renowned field experts. So those of you who use Unity might know the terrain optimization tool Meshbaker, the guy who created that tool. He's our technical artist. We had a character artist from St. Petersburg who's created Unity asset soldiers. So what really defines this company is that people, they go that extra mile working on this project for us. Having a really deep interest in solving problems and doing just awesome, fun, and entertaining stuff. We have a lead artist who used to be on Wargaming's World of Tanks Blitz, just hired a UI person from the social casino space, so it's an interesting angle. And what we want to create as a company is what we call Coffee Break Esports. Coffee Break Esports means kind of competitive gaming, but made for the mobile habits. 4 minutes, team play, centric, real-time multiplayer. We call our first game a portable man cave, this thing that you can hide away and have that experience that you only used to have on PCs and consoles, but without all this unnecessary burden of long pre-appointed sessions, of people having to be in a team speak 10 minutes before the multiplayer match starts and all that kind of crap. It's a true mobile, portable, competitive experience that we're aiming for. To give you an idea what our first game is, Forces of Freedom is a 5v5 real-time multiplayer game with 3 classes: snipers, riflemen, and scouts. Think World of Tanks Blitz crossed with SOCOM, the old PlayStation third-person shooter. I'll let that sink in a little bit. We're streaming directly from our studio. We've been traveling around the world to see military bases and play with the Marines and the soldiers there, which was always quite entertaining and inspiring for us. We've worked quite heavily and still working quite heavily with the international military community. We will have real-life soldiers from all over the world as playable characters in the game. And from that perspective, the game is more a third-person MOBA than a traditional first-person shooter. Every soldier that you can unlock in this game has its own distinct playstyle, its own special skills and abilities eventually. First Team-Multiplayer Infantry-Combat game, originally designed for mobile. This is not the small brother of an existing PC or console game. We really thought from the beginning, how does it have to play to work on mobile? Stuff that is twitchy, that is fast-paced, has its limitations on this platform. So we've come up with a couple of interesting control methods to make this truly mobile. So when you're shooting, for example, you don't just tap to shoot, you're actually holding the shooting button, and that gives you this extra focus and this shrinking dispersion circle, and then you lift to shoot, so it's a little bit like pulling a trigger. We have modern infantry from around the world, starting in the early 1960s, going all the way to the modern days and special forces. That's the World of Tanks tier concept translated into timeline, so to speak. As you can see, as you may be able to see, the soldiers are all fully accurate in terms of their respective time periods, equipment and weapons. You will see the camouflage, the weapons, the shoes, everything is really accurately designed. And we've been working with, we're still working with military historians from around the world, with people who serve in the special forces, who give us this extra little tip on how it has to look like to make it look really real and like out in the field. Google Early Access, for those who don't know what that is, it's a Google Play Store category, which is for games that are still in development. So it's sort of a feature for unfinished games. And we originally, almost out of despair, realizing that we couldn't get a full game out that Apple would have accepted as a promotable game, we basically said, let's use that program and see if anybody actually likes playing that. So we stripped the game of anything that makes a full game. Pretty much a minimum awesome product where we would only want to prove that the game can actually be fun. We just had 2 classes, a rifleman, a sniper, and 1 map, and we just wanted to take a look and see if this resonates with anybody. We then said, okay, we need to get into this live ops habit from day one. We want to update it every few weeks. We want to release fixes. We want to polish it. We want to do features. And when we started going out, we were updating the game almost every week to 2 weeks, which led to a couple of problems later on. But it doesn't matter for that case. If there is an advice for a game developer who goes out through early access, this is the place where people are looking for the new stuff. And if you go out and you tell them, hey, there's this great game and we're updating it every time, they will realize that they can be part of a development which builds the sense of community that very few games have actually managed to establish successfully or successfully at scale. Yeah, so we saw bottom-up, community-centered approach. Fun first. We came across as very authentic, honest from the beginning. We wanted to establish our core player base. We said, don't panic, even if it finds no users or if retention is bad or whatever. Let's just stay on course for a couple of months to see how this works, and let's then evolve this game with constant player input.
Fake trailers are crap. So we thought, why not just show you what our game is all about? We're making a new 5 versus 5 tactical
this is basically
team combat
our early
game.
access trailer.
It's a shooter that actually works on mobile.
So far, we've worked with people who work on badass military games such as Battlefield, America's Army, World of Tanks, Metal Gear Solid. We've worked with the international military community to make our soldiers and weapons authentic. And now it's time to open up and get you guys involved. And that's why we're on Google Early Access. Join us, give us feedback, and help us make this game absolutely awesome.
So, I don't know if you were able to hear that, but the opening statement in that early access trailer is fake trailers are crap. Many people have seen this FPS console footage style trailer, and then when you download the mobile game, it's actually a base builder. And we wanted from the beginning, to say, hey, look, it looks a bit shitty, it's a bit unfinished, but it's real, and it comes from our heart, and it comes with this massive amount of passion and love for entertainment, for games. Yeah, and fast forward just over a year, we are close to 10 million downloads on the Google Play Store platform. We have a huge amount of site loading and file sharing coming into the game. We have rock solid early adopter feedback, good reviews, and none of those installs are paid. This is purely word of mouth and some Google ranking, and I'm still blown away. Like 1 year ago, we started with like a couple of 100 downloads per day, and every time we could see somebody going online, we would all go and play with him and make sure that the guy actually has a team to play against. We didn't add any bots or anything. It was full 5v5 multiplayer from the beginning. And actually, a week into the release, all of a sudden we had like 150 concurrent players, which is a huge amount of players for a game that just was put on a store. And what happened was that a Brazilian YouTuber who I owe my existence to had put the game on his YouTube channel. He had like 200,000 subscribers, and he also put the game on a file sharing site because the game wasn't live in Brazil at the time. And within 2 days, we had 25,000 people from Latin America coming into the game that had side-loaded it from file sharing space. And we have not had any liquidity issue ever since then. And everybody that I know who's an independent developer or a small studio who's launched a multiplayer game, like the first thing they do after a week is like, shit, we need bots because we can't be online all the time. We've actually been able to go around that problem. We have that rapidly growing, engaged community. There are no clans in the game, but we still have clans, and they make their T-shirts, they make their banners, they organize their own little wars. Even though there is no way you can have a game room in the game so far, it's just quick battles. But they somehow managed to do that, and players are creating memes, which I found really stunning. That people take time to make that fun content that you only understand if you're actually a player of the game. We went very, very personal and direct in the interaction with our players. We're live streaming every couple of weeks a little show called Thank God It's Monday. The producer and I were playing together with our players. We're inviting them for live questions. We're inviting studio guests and that kind of stuff. We set up a range of regional Facebook groups and communities where people would find a place to chat about the game and share their replays and share their screenshots and all that kind of stuff. We have a global Discord, which is completely in its infancy and not very well managed, but it was a place where people could message us directly, which they do basically around the clock, 24/7. From day one, we said let's stay away from all this marketing crap, this language that puts you on top of players. Let's see what they're after and just tap into their social media habits with this little icon emoticon votes, and we were asking them to vote on our logo on the new one. We frequently go out and thank people for being with us all the time. So I think that's, if I could give one advice, that stuff costs you nothing. You just need an artist and a little bit of thinking and planning about what you put out and what resonates with your audience. One thing that wasn't necessarily bad, but we would have done things differently had we known how they would have developed. The regional restrictions don't work on Android. The good games spread. You think you can soft launch in one market, and it doesn't matter. If there is a demand for your game, it will pop up in site loading and file sharing and sometimes hacker sites and whatnot. That happened to us from basically day one or day two. And you're losing a lot of opportunity because many of those installs will come from people who don't speak English, and if you go out on that market, if you possibly can, localize early. You wouldn't believe how many people you're losing because they don't understand the instructions in the tutorial. And we still haven't localized, by the way, but if we would launch today, we would probably spend that extra time to translate the game. The volume of interactions quickly became really unmanageable, and the personal interaction really has its limitations. If I show you our Facebook page message inbox in real time, you will see a new message popping in every 2 seconds, and that's basically every day, 24/7. And it's highly repetitive. People asking for more soldiers, more maps, and when do you release the full version? And you'll keep the first like 3-4 weeks, we were manually responding to all of this until I ultimately exploded. I was doing this largely myself with some poor intern. And then you get the same stuff through different channels, the same question in tweets and support tickets and emails. People are adding me personally on Facebook and they're messaging me, and then there is this, when do you release a new map? And then 10 seconds, why don't you answer me? You don't listen to us, you're a shit developer. I'm like, dude, chill. I mean, I got hundreds of those messages. So it's really, really hard to keep up with that. And we didn't manage. We collapsed almost. And then a very smart intern came up with this idea of adding a chatbot to our Facebook page that basically deals with all the repetitive questions. And then we quite early brought a couple of volunteers aboard who was helping us answering questions. And then we're basically funneling those people that send us the messages into these public communities, which are basically closed Facebook groups. And then there is a little bit of a self-serving community. In my books, this is just the second best option. This is just not good enough. We want to be the most player-centric mobile games company out there, and a bot still doesn't deliver that, and we're investing quite heavily. We just hired a new head of community, an ex-Riot guy who will start in May, and then there will be some serious manpower be put behind this. One thing to share, the hacking and abuse from day one, both in and outside the game, it's just mind-blowing. Within the first 100 usernames, we already had 3 Hitlers with different variations of Hitler. And you go into the database and you rename the guy from Hitler to something else, and you make sure he can't rename himself back to Hitler. And then he names himself Hitler with a 1 instead of an I, or with a 3 instead of an E. And it's like, man, are you serious? And it takes a lot of time. And just imagine you have your first 500 players and a Google Play Store representative checks out your game and he runs into Hitlers. That's just unimaginable. And that costs us a lot of time. Like the first few weeks were just firefighting and adding little maintenance tools and name filters and that kind of stuff. There are a lot of third-party solutions out there that can do certain things for you. I really recommend using those. We had friendly fire in the beginning, friendly suppression fire. That was obviously abused, where people would shoot their teammates all the time. We had to remove that. Hacks, I mean, I don't know, man. We're just out for a couple of days, and we had the first hackers going into the game. We were, again, very naive to just expect that they wouldn't care. It's actually the opposite. They love to find stuff that is vulnerable, and then this race to arms starts, where you're fixing, you're banning, you're putting protection in. The hacker tries to do the next thing. So it is a constant thing that I think never ends. Also very interesting, fake apps and guidebooks. The moment we got traction, a Forces of Freedom official guidebook appeared on Play Store, and when you download and you open it, it's basically 2 YouTube videos and like 4 advertisement banners, right? So, which makes you look bad, because people don't understand that this is not official. So you need to go after these guys and take them down. And we frequently file IP violations on YouTube to take down hacker videos and hacker instructions and that kind of stuff. And again, I recommend you need some tools in place and third-party solutions for account registration, that kind of stuff. They offer a certain convenience, and we paid a little bit of a price there, because it cost us probably 6 weeks until we were at least in basic shape, and we're still not there, to be honest. The ugly. Whatever you do not publish into live by mistake, because that can be done very easily. You're in that Google Play console, and you have these different layers where you have your APK, and you're in early access only as long as you're in beta. But when you're updating the APK, there is this little button that says publish, and you think you're just publishing a new beta, but you're actually publishing it into live. And that's irreversible. And that was the moment we had this user curve going up, and I thought all the traffic comes from the category and from being featured in Google Early Access. And I thought, shit, we just left this. We just killed ourselves. The engineer that did this, he was so depressed, and we were all sitting in the office on that Thursday night thinking, oh man, we're screwed. We're out of money in 6 weeks, and now we're basically killing our traction. Funny enough, the opposite happened. Because we went out in that live category, it was easier to find the game. We've reached a certain amount of download charts. We're still in the, I think, top 100 top action games in many markets. But that nice little category feature was gone, and Google said, sorry, we know the user experience isn't great, but we can't do anything. We can't revert that push into live. It turned out to be good for us in the end, or let's say not as harmful as we thought, because the users just kept growing and growing. And Up till today, we're doing 30, 40, 50,000 downloads a day, again, with no marketing whatsoever. Just look at this button. The 12 hours, or actually it was 24 hours from pushing that button till realizing that the downloads weren't affected. That was really the hardest time. We really thought after all this hard time working on this product together, we had just killed ourselves. That basically ends my part of the presentation. I would just want to say we're still looking for people, great people with really deep know-how in at least one of the following fields: mobile 3D technology, people that can optimize FPS to the metal if it has to be, mobile networking. We have our own networking solution in place which still needs some work. Distributed backend system, analytics. If you have competence in any of this field, please find me. I'll get you a plane ticket and take you to London with me. Yeah, that's us. Please take your time and chances here and ask as many questions as you want, and I'll answer as honest as I can.
Thank you, Florian. And yeah, that was definitely a very interesting view into a very fun company. So if you're looking for a job, I would highly recommend that. We got any questions from this sold-out crowd? And there we go.
Hi, Kim Kari from Rival Games. Thanks. Great presentation, great story. You didn't mention the word e-sport in your presentation, or I didn't hear it because I joined a bit late. So, are you thinking that this game could be also e-sport type of game?
Okay. Well, the question is always, what is e-sport? If you go back to a simple e-sport is people playing and other people watching, then the answer is yes. If I'm thinking of this traditional thing with people with plastic hands and stadiums and racing seats and headsets and that kind of stuff, that to me feels a little bit like ice hockey. You know, you have these rigs and all this hardware and stuff, but I want this e-sport experience of us to be as casual and as mass market as football, where you can basically take a little plastic ball and kick it and play sport without any entry barriers. And the mobile platform actually allows that kind of accessibility and doesn't necessarily segment you out. He was playing Counter-Strike competitively, and he told me about how he was using his Teflon spray to improve his keyboard and that kind of stuff. I think that's all great, and it has its place, but it's so anti-mobile because mobile is for everybody. And our philosophy here is really that what we call coffee break esports is made for to fit your daily habits. 10 minutes to the next conference call, I play 1 or 2 battles in Forces of Freedom. And after I do that, I share my highlights with my friends who are enjoying it. Or I might have a component in the future where the spectators can somehow influence the gameplay. So we really want to do something here that is true to mobile. What I'm completely against that is this: you take $1 million marketing budget and you pay one of these esports leagues and one of these teams to play your game, because that's just firecrackers. It's not sustainable. I really would like to see this kind of maybe even synchronous competitive gameplay originating from the players, that they start organizing stuff that we then support rather than pushing it top down into the market.
Yeah, thanks, makes totally sense. And one question about the monetization. How does your game, what is your best strategies at the moment?
Well, at the moment we're not monetizing at all. It was all about engagement. The numbers are really reassuring. People play really a lot. This is the big thing. Can you create a hardcore game with monetization on mobile that isn't pay to win, right? And if we possibly can, we want to stay away from chests and gachas and wheels of fortune and whatnot. I kind of think if we do a great game with great content, we'll be able to find ways where people really want to give us their money without unbalancing the game. There is, in mobile games, you always have a little bit of grinding versus acceleration. That gets, however, evened out in matchmaking, so people can buy themselves a permanent advantage over others. So it will be a modern kind of free-to-play, free-to-win system going into the game.
One question I got. You were actually highlighting or reviewing definitely a lot of channels for communication which you use to engage with your audience. Was there, if you would go back in time, would there be a channel you would go forward to and like, okay, that is the place to be if you want to engage with your audience and want to have some meaningful feedback from them, or which is?
Well, in social media, you have to be where the consumers are to start with. Ultimately, I want our game to be the social network of its own, with your own in-game news feeds and sharing and following and that kind of stuff. If you have been following social media for a while, and I've been doing Facebook stuff basically since Facebook went live back in my days at Konami, where we're building Pro Evolution Soccer out on Facebook. Today, there is almost no such thing as organic traffic on Facebook anymore. They give you a couple of thousand views at exactly the same conversion rate, and then they tell you, if you want more, you need to pay, right? And this is really dangerous because you're putting yourself at the goodwill of a company that could change its protocols, policies every day. And you can see that Facebook gets under heavy regulation problems right now. And if you build your company or your community based on that platform only, you'll be in the trouble. But at the same time, you need to start somewhere, and then you go to the platforms that players are actually around. So we're using Facebook Live to stream gameplay simply because we have a Facebook page with at least a couple of 100,000 people to basically make aware of the content that we're streaming. But again, over time, I would say if you're getting serious about a community-driven, socially played type of game, you need to build your own thing in the game, or at least use some third-party tech to build your own solution in the game. What I'm skeptical about is this forum world, you know, this thing with avatar pictures and little signatures and like burning board kind of 1990s forum style thing, because it's just not the way people again use mobile platforms. At the same time, and this is something that we haven't solved, it's not necessarily a given that people go public with their Facebook profile saying, hey, I'm playing this mobile shooter and I'm playing it 10 minutes before my conference call starts, right? Because people are connected with their colleagues and friends on Facebook. So some form of a social graph centered around the game where people can hide behind their in-game names and don't have to disclose their identity is probably needed for us as well.